Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzer, happy to be your host today and joined by my colleague Vern Schellinger. We are normally joined by Alki Thompson, who he's actually on away this month, but we look forward to having him back. So, for those of you who are new, we are an open Q&A for all job seekers to answer any job search question that you might have. Just FYI, we are not experts in the federal government or getting into or out of the federal government. That's not quite our expertise or government contracting. With that said, we love federal workers. We are praying for them. We want to be in a source of encouragement. So if you know any federal workers who need to be on this call, certainly a lot of the advice we share is cross-sectoral. We just don't specialize in the federal government, but we certainly have lots of advice I think that could be helpful. So you're welcome to invite your colleagues here anytime you'd like. All right, so with that said, who would like to kick us off with a question that we can answer?
This is always interesting. Everybody's job search is going so well.
There
They
you
have a
go.
question.
Well, I've got one. Um, my sense is that different headhunters often specialize in different areas
True.
Yeah.
in industries, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Um, is there a good way that a job applicant or candidate is can determine the area of expertise of a particular headhunter or headhunting firm um, from, shall we say, the outside, not personally knowing any of
Knowing
these people?
anybody? So are you
Yes.
referring, yes, are you asking about how to find them or once you find a firm, how to figure out what they specialize in?
Yes and yes.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Well, since I be one, I'll take this
I think
question.
you qualify.
All right. So first, if it's okay, Mark, I'd like to share at a higher level the kind
Yes,
of the world of headhunting and kind of what that looks like. And I'm just going to go
absolutely.
top level, then I will address your specific question. Okay. I think
Absolutely.
there's a lot of confusion about what's what and who's who. So I'm going to go super high level right now, 100,000 feet. Okay. Recruiting in general. Okay,
Mhm.
because that's actually that unto itself can tend to be confusing. How do companies recruit? So depending on the size of the company and their area of need, they're going to handle this different ways. So for example, so take Vern. All right. So Vern used to be a chief human resources officer. He was in HR internal for many, many years, right? So
Mhm.
he, for example, depending on the size of the organization he would have worked at, either if it was a small organization, he himself, right, might have done the initial recruiting.
Mhm.
If it was a larger organization, he might have had a team of HR people, and maybe one of them, sort of specialized in recruiting. He might have actually had a recruiter. I don't know, Vern, if you ever had. Okay, so if you in a lot,
Yeah.
maybe ABA, did you actually have recruiters?
Well, ABA, Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So a large company or a large organization is going to have the bandwidth and the capacity and the need for a full-time recruiter or recruiters. Those are regular internal staff. They're part of the HR department. That's what they do. All right.
Mhm.
And they're obviously only representing that organization. Right.
Mhm.
So now you go into the outsourced world, the world of headhunting. So there's actually a couple different, well, multiple different sides to that world. So first of all headhunters, and I'm just going to talk about the name for a second. Some people aren't comfortable using that phrase. I'll just explain what the term headhunting actually is an old term, and it refers to hunting the heads of companies. That's why it was called headhunting. So it used to be executive search was what was, and that's why they call it. So it's okay. You can call us headhunters. It's not a problem. But otherwise, you can call us search consultants or recruiters or permanent placement specialists. There's lots of different phrases for us. Anyway, we're all talking about the third party recruiting world. So that's
Mhm.
what Mark was just addressing, third party. What does that even look like? Well, first of all, firms, there's two kinds of firms, and there's sort of an overlap too. What used to be called permanent placement, and then temporary staffing. So on the permanent placement, which is more, Mark, where you're referring,
Mhm.
those
Yes.
are those are recruiters who specialize in finding full-time hires for a company. Okay. Now that could be at the executive level, that could be at the administrative level, or anything in between. All kinds of industries use third-party recruiters, again, for all kinds of levels. There are
Mhm.
some firms like mine which just specialize in permanent placement, just full-time hires.
Mhm.
Then there's the quote staffing industry. So when you hear the term staffing, it specifically refers to people who focus on temporary staffing,
Mhm.
temporary placement. Now, there is a sort of crossover in the contract world. And there are some firms, particularly staffing firms, who will place people on a contract basis, not just a temporary, hey, I'm just, you're filling in for somebody who's on maternity leave, but an
Mhm.
actual contract, like a 6-month contract.
Mhm.
There's all these different, right, flavors. And then I'll say one more thing before, Mark, I addressed your question about how to find recruit.
Mhm.
And that is the idea. And this is something this is the business model, which you may or may not even, we may even wonder why I'm even telling you this, but there's a reason. In the permanent placement world, the search world, okay,
Mhm.
there are two kinds of ways that recruiters recruit on a business level.
Mhm.
Either retained search or contingent search,
Mhm.
retained or contingent. Why in the
Mhm.
world am I telling you this? Why would you even care about this? Well, this is the relationship that the recruiting firm has with the employer. This
Mhm.
is the
Mhm.
business model. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is
Mhm.
because on your side, when you are the receiver, right, of the recruitment, when you're the
Yes.
candidate, depending on whether the search is a retained search or a contingent search, can impact your experience with the recruiter.
Okay.
I'm diving deep here, Mark. Thank you, by the way,
No.
for for bringing this up because we don't normally talk about recruiters, and there's so much questions around it. When when a recruiting firm has a contingent relationship with the employer, that means, ready? The
Mhm.
recruiter is working for free until they make the placement.
Mhm.
Because of that, that recruiting firm needs to have a volume of searches in order for them to have a viable business.
Right.
And that means that most of those recruiting firms are not able to, number one, go dive as deeply as they might want to into that search to understand all the nuances.
Mhm.
And they may not have as deep of a relationship with the hiring manager. Why? Because the employer, when they hire a firm on a contingent basis, that employer typically is working with multiple firms.
Right.
So they
Mhm.
don't have that kind of, if you will, the exclusivity with that firm. So the
Mhm.
firm is just saying, hey, go, the first to make the placement wins, right? So
Yeah.
there's like this race, this is competition. So the recruiter can't normally spend as much time with the employer to find out. And not only that, because of the volume and because of there's this frenetic thing, what you'll typically experience is not necessarily the most high touch experience, right? High touch
Yeah.
relationship,
Sure.
because they are frenetic. They've got multiple openings and lots of candidates, and they are racing to make this placement. So it doesn't bode, unfortunately, to give you the best experience because you don't get as much information. You might feel ghosted. They're just running, running, running. The retained side is a lot different. A retained search means the employer is investing in that search with that employer, with that recruiting firm. It is an exclusive search, and that employer is paying usually a three-part fee at the beginning, kind of sometimes the middle, and at the end of the search. And there is it's everybody's invested. Okay. So that recruiting firm can afford to have fewer searches that are more customized, more intimate. They get to know the employer, they get to work with you. There's a partnership there, right?
Mhm.
You'll
Yes.
feel the love,
Mhm.
if you will, more
Yeah.
from that kind of search firm just because they can afford to spend more time with the candidate and with you, with the employer. It's just a different relationship. So that is something I just want to let you all know. On your
That's
receiving end, you
helpful.
might be dealing with all kinds of people. An HR generalist who's running Mach 5 with their hair on fire and they don't have time to do deep dive recruiting, a regular internal recruiter, temporary staffing. Do you get it? But you wouldn't know any of this, right? Because this is all behind the scenes, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully that demystified it. Now to your question, Mark. Okay. How do you find us? Like what? Well, there are different ways. The first is, by the way, before I even answer the question, know that there's not a recruiter for everything. Third-party recruiters can only be hired by employers, number one, who have the need, right, for an external firm, but
Mhm.
also where they would be willing to pay a fee. So,
Mhm.
for example, take a social worker. If anybody here is a social worker or knows anybody,
I do.
I would be very, very surprised if there were any recruiting firms that specialize in hiring social workers. Why? Social workers, unfortunately, are not paid a high salary. So and there's a lot of them. most employers or a social work agency is not probably going to pay a fee. And by the way, recruiting fees are very expensive. Is not going to typically pay a fee to hire a social worker. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So not every profession, not every sector is going to have dedicated third-party recruiters. With that said, now, what do you do? How do you find them? So first thing is LinkedIn. Okay. So in LinkedIn, what I would recommend that you do is go into the search bar. And that, for those of you who don't know, that search bar is the access to LinkedIn's database. Okay. A lot of ways you can use it. Here's one. First of all, I would type in the word just recruiter. Now, of course, that's going to bring up way too many people. How do you narrow that down? First and foremost, I want to let you know, for anybody on this call that's in the tech industry or knows anybody in the tech industry, the most voluminous recruiters out there are tech recruiters. So if you put in technical recruiter, hit enter, you will, no joke, get 1 million people. I'm not kidding. You will get more recruiters than you know what to do with, because technical recruiting is a big thing. The other very prolific, way that the recruiters show up is for accounting and finance. So accounting and finance recruiters and technical recruiters are the two most, right, prolific. All right. So those are the two. But beyond that, what do you do? Well, you can put in the name of your profession or your sector and then the word recruiter and see what happens. So you could put, Mark, in your case, you're in the banking world, right? So banking or
Yes.
finance or
Financial services.
financial services, recruiter,
Mm-hmm.
Commercial real estate recruiter, whatever it is. Now,
Mm-hmm.
do you know that there's different nomenclature now in the recruiting world? We don't just use the term recruiter. There is another phrase you might have seen. It's called talent acquisition, right?
Okay.
Talent acquisition, in air quotes, is another phrase that people will use. Some people use search consultant if it's a third party. So
Mm-hmm.
you can play around with these terms and you can put in, again, an industry name or a profession, okay? And then put recruiter or talent acquisition. By the way, the talent acquisition, or some people call it TA, that phrase is typically reserved for an internal recruiter. So somebody who works at a company. Typically, search firms like myself, we will not call ourselves talent acquisition specialists. We'll say recruiter or search, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part I'll mention, Mark, is if you know of a firm already, you've heard of a firm, you can go to that firm's website, and sometimes they will have multiple practice areas. So you might have a firm that, they have again, commercial real estate practice, and by the way, it's both profession and industry. Different firms have different ones. So for me, my primary focus is an industry. I recruit mostly for the association industry. I do
Okay.
some outside, but I don't market myself for that. Occasionally people will give me a search, I'm like, I can do it, but mostly it's association. There are some that are just a career vertical. Again, accounting and finance, or they do human resources search, or they do technical search, right? So there's different professions, but there's also some people do different industries, and they do, like for me, when I do associations, I'm cross career. Like I'll do a membership person or a communications person, or right,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And then the very last thing I'll say is, in terms of how to find people, ask your colleagues, ask human resources professionals, ask people in your network when they have either used a recruiter to do a search or when they have actually worked with a recruiter as a candidate. And they might give you names of firms. And then finally, very, 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 very last thing I'll say, and then Vern, I'd love for you to hear your side of things, is that please know that a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm doing a job search. I need to go find a recruiter to work with." It doesn't work that way,
No, I
unfortunately.
know that. I know that.
You would know that.
They don't work. They don't work for you.
They don't work for the candidate. They work for the employer. Okay, so they're getting paid by the employer to go find individuals. You, as a candidate, are represented by the recruiter back to the employer.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hired by you, right? They're hired by the employer. And so just remember, they are the liaison. And when they are working with you, they're trying to do their best to represent you and represent the employer. It doesn't always go the way that you might think. You might get more or less information from them. They
Mm-hmm.
might be more or less responsive, but please know that
Mm-hmm.
regardless of your relationship, I got to say this really clear, regardless of your relationship with the recruiter, that may have nothing to do with your actual experience in the job.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the best recruiter in the world, the job may not be right for you. If you
Right.
have the worst recruiter in the world, it could be a fabulous job.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want your relationship with the recruiter or anything having to do with that to stand in your way from vetting the opportunity itself, because
Mhm.
people have different ways of recruiting. People are more efficient or less efficient, more quality, less quality, more sophisticated, less sophisticated. None of that should matter. You just got to get through the recruiter to get to the opportunity and see if it's right for you. Okay, that is my very long speech.
Thank you so much, Shira.
You're welcome. All right, Vern, and then Pete. Sorry, I've seen your head. Your hand came up at the same time that Mark was starting to talk. Vern, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short because Pete's had his hand up for a long time.
Yeah.
As Shira said, I spent most of my career in human resources at a pretty senior level, so was involved in a lot of recruiting. Have worked with executive search firms, have worked with, contingency firms. Um, and one of the things I will say, and you'll have to judge this for yourself,
Mhm.
whichever firm you're working with, um, in both cases, I've worked with excellent executive search firms, and I've worked with some that didn't deliver as far as I was going from an internal perspective. Now
Mhm.
that's not from the candidate's perspective. And the same thing with contingent firms. There are good and bad, experiences with both of them. Um, I'll give you two quick examples. From a contingent standpoint, I was helping my daughter
Mhm.
get to a new job. She was working with a contingent firm.
Mhm.
She was like the number one candidate, had gone through the whole thing, and they made her an offer, and now she was getting cold feet. Well, then the contingent person was like off the wall,
Right. Because
right?
they're about to lose their commission.
They were
Right,
about to
right. I
lose,
get it.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And the way she was treating Jen was like,
Strong
really bad.
arming, right?
Yeah, and Jen was getting upset. I said, look, I said, I still think this is the great. She was just Jen was having those, oh my God, it's a new place, and how am I going to do, and all of those reservations.
Mhm. Sure,
But she
sure.
accepted the job, and she's done it's been a great move for her. So, but that's the type of thing that can happen with a contingent recruiter. Um, Same thing with executive search firms, good and bad. One of the things to recognize if you work with an executive, if you're, I would consider lucky enough to work with an executive search firm, because as Shira said, they're going to get to know you a lot better. They're going to actually help prepare you because as they're getting a big fee. And if
Right.
I'm the human resources person and they're not delivering for me, I'm going to have an issue with them. I'll never hire them again, or I'm going to say I'm not paying you your full fee.
Mhm.
So they really want to send, 3 to 5 of the very best possible candidates. So your competition will be stiff,
Mhm.
but if you've made a great impression upon them, maybe somebody, there's 5 candidates and one of them gets the job, but they will remember you. They'll remember you for a future search because,
That's
hey, I was
how.
really impressed with Mark. He didn't get this job because ultimately the company is going to decide who gets, who gets the job for whatever reason.
Mhm.
So those are just a couple of my thoughts about, the retained and the contingent world of search. So.
And we
Thank,
just had a question about
thank you, Vern.
contingency. Just to remind everybody, so the contingent recruiter is one who is paid by the employer only after they make the placement. A retained recruiter is paid by the employer throughout the search. So the retained recruiter has an exclusive relationship. The contingent recruiter does not. It's not exclusive. They're not paid upfront, which means they typically have competition because the employer typically hires multiple contingent recruiters at the same time, and everybody's racing to the finish line, which means that the contingent recruiter typically cannot invest as much time in the search process and with you. So it's going to feel a lot more, probably a lot more scattershot, depending upon the recruiter. So,
Yeah. And the
Thank
and the
you both.
contingent world, as a job seeker, you're always frustrated because nobody gets back to you in time and in a timely manner and stuff. It's really bad in the contingent world because as Shira said, they're scrambling
they're
and then
scrambling. Yeah.
multiple searches going on. You're not gonna, you're gonna try to, well, can you give me an update as where we're at? And you can email them all you want. You're probably not going to get a response. And you just have to accept that.
And by the way, the other day somebody said to me, "Oh, Cher, how do I find a reputable recruiting firm?" I said, "Well, it doesn't really go like that, right? It's not about the name on the door. It's about the individual recruiter. That every
Mhm.
recruiter is different. Every recruiter has different experience, different personality, different style, different customer service, right? So sometimes you might stumble across a recruiter who's great or not, But I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't worry again. Reputation, all is the opportunity right for you? That
Mhm.
recruiter is in the middle, right? They're your gatekeeper. So regardless of that, you'll focus on the opportunity and then work with that recruiter to see, right, is this going to be the right fit?
Sheila, consistent with that, what if the recruiter is not, real, I mean, not representing you properly, but once they have represented, you can't go through tech systems or something like that, right? If you went through Robert Half.
When you say not presented you properly, what do you mean?
Yeah, so, you want a recruiter that, contingent recruiter that like Robert Half or tech
Yeah.
systems or something that they present to you properly too, because the same employer is going to have like five different people getting five
Right,
different
right,
companies.
right. Uh,
So, how do you find the right ones?
the right recruiter?
Yeah.
That you can't really.
Uh,
It's whoever you get. Yeah,
yes.
you can't. That's not. Yeah, unfortunately, it's whoever you get with. You do your best to help them represent you correctly, but other than that, there's not really much you can do, unfortunately.
Okay. Thanks. That's
Yeah, sorry.
clarification and not too nice.
Well, there's so many ways that recruiters work. So
Right. Okay.
thank you, Pete. And you've been waiting patiently.
Thank you. Um, Name is Pete Warner. Today I'm wearing my journalist hat. I write and edit a popular blog on LinkedIn called the Washington DMV Meetup about interesting developments in the regional meetup community. And I know you know Robert Brando quite well. Um, I wrote an article and a follow-up about career confidence, Robert's endeavor for my blog. I got over 700 hits between the two installments, which was pretty extraordinary. Obviously, a lot of interest in the recruiting community about connecting with former federal employees. And as we're seeing here, a lot of interest among candidates in linking up with recruiters, pursuant to which would you invite recruiters here to this forum to make a brief pitch for their recruiting firm and what their specialties are? Would you throw out the welcome mat to recruiters who want to connect with people just like all of us?
Certainly would. If there are recruiters who'd like to join our call, they're always welcome. We actually had one used to be part of this group. In fact, I'll just mention her name out loud just for anybody who's interested in contract search. Her name is Rachel Pellegrini, Pellegrini. She works for a firm called Justin Bradley. And Justin Bradley typically works on accounting and finance search, but she has a contract division, what they call a contingent workforce division, which could be appealing to those of you on this call who are in transition and are interested in a contract role. She has all kinds of contract positions. So she actually used to be on this call on a regular basis for a while. But yeah, we are very, very open, Pete. If there's any recruiters in your network that would like to join us, they can share what they're doing, share job opportunities, share some advice. We are very, very open here to all kinds of experts.
Yeah. Okay, and uh, could we go into the chat box if they wanted to describe some openings that they're working on?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are delighted to have all kinds of
Yeah.
resources for
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah.
I mean, this is the whole process.
That's why we're here. Yeah. Thank you,
We've
Pete. Yes,
got people that are
absolutely.
looking for, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We bring it on. You've got opportunities, recruiters, even people, and we've never done this here, but even people on this call. If you see opportunities that you think could be appropriate for folks here, you're welcome to just, fill up the chat box. You never know. Yeah. Thank you, Pete. That's great. That's great. All right. Vasu and then Rachel.
Oh, can you hear me? No. Yeah, you can hear me. So is it okay to send out when I get emails saying, "Oh, we have openings, just send your resume," to different people, and I don't even know if they're legit or not. How do you find that out?
So can you rephrase your question? I'm not quite sure I'm
All
understanding.
right. So I get saying, "Oh, people are looking for business systems analysts." So I get emails from different recruiting firms, and they don't. Some that I don't know. I mean, I know about Robert Half and Tech Systems and all.
Yeah.
But should you just send the resume to them? Because what if they flood my resumes with, I don't know, with the, what do they do? Is it okay to send them?
Yes, yes. I personally don't have any problem. Look, so
Okay.
I'm going to get to maybe maybe the root of your question, that and that is, is there anything nefarious going on with recruiters as it
Yeah,
relates
yeah,
to you?
that's the
Yeah.
question.
Okay, so first of all, look, you never know, right? We're in an online digital world. Anything's possible. I can't say everything, can't guarantee what's going to happen here, but here's what I can say in general. And again, personal choice. You can make your own good decision for yourself. In my opinion, especially if you're in transition and you're doing an open job search, I think the more people that have your resume, the better. You never know who might
Okay.
have opportunity, right? So if a
Yeah, okay.
recruiter has your resume, maybe a good thing will happen. I don't believe that it's that big of a risk. Look, you're not putting your social security number on there. You're not putting personal information. It's your name. Oh, by the way, no address. Please, if you still have your address. In fact,
Uh,
I'd even take your city, state off of it. Have your cell phone, have your email, have your LinkedIn, done. That's it. Nothing else
okay.
that would be that would define kind of where you live and anything like that. That for sure, that's a protection in general, I would say. And especially now with remote working, most people don't care. And even if they did care, they'll ask you, are you, within a 50-mile radius of DC or whatever it is, right? So that's a protect. But other than that, your information's out there, right? Who you are is out there. Even if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's out there. So I
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with you sending your resume, just planting a lot of seeds. That's my opinion.
Okay. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Vern.
Always good to see you, Sheeta.
It's good to see you too, Mr. Any other thoughts, Vern, before we go to Rachel?
No, no, I agree. I agree 100%. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
You
yeah.
never know where it's going to end up. Rachel.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have a networking question,
Sure.
and
We love networking questions.
I know I'm excited. So I found that one of my strengths is meeting new people and building that sort of acquaintance level. And so my question is, how do I build my reputation and my trust with these folks to move them from one category of just sort of knowing me into one where I might get a reference or referral from them. And so some things that I'm already doing are engaging substantively with content from other folks who are in my field. I've been posting my own content that showcases my expertise. And I'm currently writing an article that I'm hoping to submit to either Training Industries Magazine or ATD's online blog. Those are, and this probably shows my background as an academic, that the first place I went is
It's
like
content, right?
writing, right?
Right,
So
right.
my question is, other than those things I'm already doing, what are some other high impact ways to move folks into a more trusted category? And to, eventually I really want to tap into this hidden job market.
For sure. I'm going to give a quick tip, but I definitely want to throw this ball into Vern's court. Literally, Vern has a whole presentation on this. He's got a whole model around this. So I'm going to give him the floor in just a sec. I'll just pop in a little thing. One of the things I know Vern's going to talk about is building a trusted relationship, which is what you're alluding to, Rachel, right? Is how do you build the trust? You want to be seen as a go-giver. There's actually a book by that title, The Go-Giver. If anybody wants to read it, it's a great book. It's all about adding value to people's lives. And so content, absolutely. Keep it going. Keep it up. Put out your content. Post, respond, yes, and yes.
Okay.
This is really about making a personal connection with people. Okay. Because you want this to be a two-way street. As I know, which is why you're asking the question, right? So they're giving to you, you want to give back into them. And so your job is to find out ways that you can personally support them. If you're on that call, you're on that net, by the way, I hope everybody's listening to this. If you're on that call, your job is to ask them about them. Who are they? What's going on in their world? What are the challenges they're facing professionally, personally? Any way that you can be of value to them. Make connections for them. Refer them people. Vern and I have 1,002 stories about, even in our own lives, how that's happened. I'll just get quick. That's how Vern likes to tell the story. That's how Vern is here right now, by the way. So real quick, this HMM, our group here, Higher Moment Mastermind, we started in August of 2020, and we were, middle pandemic, right? A lot of people on the call. And then one day there was this woman who was a regular attendee, and she knew Vern. Now, I've known Vern, by the way, for, was it 15, 20 years now? Like forever. We used to be in the human resources networking world together. But we lost touch. She moved away, we lost touch. Anyway, so this woman was on this call, was working with Vern, coaching with Vern. And she goes, "Hey, Vern, I'm on this Friday morning call called Higher Moment Mastermind." And Vern's like, "Oh, tell me about it." And he mentions my name. And Vern's like, or she mentions my name. And Vern's like, "Shira, oh my gosh, I know Shira." He just calls me out of the blue, right? He's like, "Hey, oh my gosh, how have you been? I heard about this call." And I'm like, "Vern, we would love to have you on the call." And he's been every week since then. Okay. Because that woman took the time to refer Vern back to me in this case. My point is that, Rachel, you want to be everybody here. You want to be listening for opportunities to make intentional connections. Add to people's lives. It could be, hey, you're looking for a great dentist. Hey, you're looking for whatever it is, it is that they need, you be the personal referral source. And then obviously, and they'll help you to, don't do it in order to get, back, but really pour into their lives, right? Anything you can do on a personal level, right? So that's my one big tip, but Vern, I know has lots. So we'll get Vern, and then Roxanne, we'll get to you after Vern's done.
Okay. So I'm just going to piggyback on a lot of what Shira said. Again, at context count, the fundamental principle in building trust-based relationships is it's about teaching and giving. And you've heard Shira talk about the go-giver, and everything that Shira was saying is the more you learn about the other person, the greater likelihood you'll be able to give back to them in some way. Whether it's sending them an article, as Shira said, recommending a great restaurant, a plumber, or whatever. Anything that in the conversations you have with them that something sparks your brain goes, "Oh, I saw an article that you might be interested in. Would you like me to send it to you?" Learning about them so that you could introduce them to other people, maybe in your network, just as Shira said. I mean, Melissa and I worked together, and then I was her career coach, and she was on this call, and she kind of put two and two together, and she called me. So she gave back to me in a big way. Because as Shira said, I've been on the call for a long time, and Shira and I have kind of reconnected after knowing each other 20 years ago. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. That would have never happened if Melissa didn't give me that call. So that, to me, that's a big give. There's small gives like sending an article, recommending a restaurant, and then there's the big gives. A big give for anybody on this call is somebody in your network saying, "I saw an opportunity that I think is great for you," right? That's a big give. So it's one conversation at a time. And as you're meeting, and it sounds like you're just, reaching out there to all, anyone and everyone, which is fine. You've got to use your judgment in terms of, at some point, if you're trying to manage 100 people, it'll become unwieldy. Use your judgment as you go along, and um, and when you see a connection with someone and they reciprocate and they say, "Hey, that was great, Rachel. I'd like to talk to you about it more." When you see those opportunities to have more and more conversations. So it's one conversation at a time. And as Shira said, we have a PowerPoint slide that talks about the type of conversation you can have with anyone, any place, anytime. So the first type of conversation you can have with anyone, any place, anytime is what we call an accident. Okay. You're standing in line to buy tickets for a show and you're there a long time and all of a sudden you start an accident with a person. Typically, those are one and done. You meet that person in the line, you never talk to them again, unless there was something in the conversation where the person said, "Let me give you my business card. I'd like to learn more about what you do," or vice versa. Then what I think you're experiencing right now is what we call acquaintances. You've made some connection. You've got each other's contact information. It's at the acquaintance level. So the way that you bring that person to a more trusting relationship is what I've been saying. You look for opportunities, have conversations, find things in common, find ways to help them. And you have to balance, you want to teach the other person as much as you can about you so they can help you,
Mhm.
but you've got to be always mindful of, what making sure you're trying to learn as much as you can about the other person. So,
Mhm.
but that's the way all relationships, all long-term relationships, develop over time. And what Shira was explaining in terms of um, our relationship is what we call a dormant relationship. Because as Shira said, back in, I don't know, 2004, 2005, we were on the same board with the Human Resource Leadership Forum. We would see each other every month. We would, and Shira was, I think at the time, like a junior recruiter for some company. Okay. She's come a long way over the 20 years. But it was Melissa's reaching out to me that, got us reconnected. So
And
does that
that
help,
also,
Rachel?
does that help, Rachel?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And just one other quick thing to Vern, then we'll get to you, Roxanne. The dormant relationship thing. I want everybody to listen up to this. What Vern just said. I don't want you to miss it. A lot of people, when they're thinking in their job search, they're like, oh, I haven't talked to so and so in 5 years. Oh, they're probably out, right? Bridget's nodding her head. So many people erroneously think that. As long as you left on good terms, it could be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years. It does not matter. Those are the blast from the past conversations. Bridget, we haven't talked. How has it been in the last 10 years? Oh my gosh, so great to hear from you. Trust me, you will hear that. It has happened to me so many times. Again, Vern and I, that is the most classic example of that ever. Vern and I remembered each other fondly. We hadn't talked in 10 years. How's it been? We reconnected. I have multiple examples of that in my own life where that has been the case. So for all of you, please don't think that it's out of sight, out of mind. As long as you had a good connection the last time you talked, they will likely be delighted to hear from you and you could resurrect the conversation. So please go after your older network and you can go into LinkedIn, go into your connection, your My Network tab. It'll pull up all your connections and you can go through people like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to so-and-so. Ping them a note. Hey, saw you on LinkedIn here and it's been forever. Would love to catch up, see how you're doing. And then offer them some times. And 9 times out of 10, if they see your note, they will likely say yes. And then you can just have a friendly conversation. You never know what could happen. A lot of good stuff.
And the reason that worked so well, from both sides of the relationship, you knew them well, you knew their character, you knew they were trustworthy, you knew they were dependable, that you knew, what they did, and they knew those same things about you, and you had this very, positive relationship. So it's so easy to rekindle that relationship.
Right. The ember's still there. You just got to
Yeah.
blow on a little bit. Okay. Roxanne.
Good morning. I'm Roxanne Mirasolde, and in terms of networking, I have some suggestions. I'm a member of a job club in Central Texas, and the job club has SWAT teams. The purpose of the SWAT teams is for small groups to connect, and they have a common interest, basically an industry of interest.
Right.
and they promote each other.
Yeah.
They encourage each other. They make sure that they're participating 100%, that they don't forget and walk away. So see if you can find a job club in your area. See if you can find SWAT teams in your area. Another option is do volunteer work. Doing volunteer work is a way to get connected to other people with like interests. And it's also a way to potentially get a job. The person for whom you're volunteering says, you know, you are 100% what we're looking for. We have an opening now. Now is the time.
Yeah.
And last of all, if you aren't finding these types of events in your own location, you can join clubs like Toastmasters, for example. I'm an introvert, and I've been a Toastmaster since 2010, and I know hundreds, maybe even thousands of people as a Toastmaster. And it's a great opportunity to really get to know people on a deep level. So those are my suggestions
I
in
love it.
terms of getting
Yay. Thank
connected.
you,
Great.
Roxanne. Fabulous. But yes, 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 all of it.
Yeah.
And in fact, it makes me think that every once in a while we do this, we should do more, go around the Zoom room and have everybody say what they're doing, what they're looking for. So we can start even here, make those informal connections, right? To your point, Roxanne, you talked about the SWAT team. So you could do that informally here if somebody is, you know, you're in a profession, it's a similar profession, you know, you might hear about opportunities, right, for that person. So let's make sure that we'll start to try to do that more here. So thank you,
Yeah.
Roxanne, for that.
And to Roxanne's comments, and it wasn't as formal, but it was more informal. There was a SWAT team. There was a bunch of tech people who were on
Yes,
this call all at
that's
the
right.
same time.
That's right.
They set
They
up a
split off.
separate meeting,
Yeah, they did.
other than this, to talk about tech and
That's
where
right.
the opportunities are and how they could support one another. So,
That's right.
so we've seen that happen on this
On
call.
this call.
Probably not to the extent that you're talking about, Roxanne, but you know, again, getting with people in the same industry, sector, skill level that you know, that's how you're going to find about other, you know, other potential opportunities.
That's exactly right. And also, you know, sometimes we talk about the association community here in this call, and I'm guessing there might be some folks who know about it. You know, associations are membership organizations, either for professions or for an industry, and sometimes for both. And there's an association for everything, as we like to say. Quite literally, there is. And especially for the ones that are what we call professional societies, where again it's professionals, like I think Rachel was talking about ATD, which is the Association for Talent Development. Their members are, you know, training, learning and development people, right? People in that kind of world. Well, a lot of these national associations have local chapters. The local chapter is kind of what Roxanne was talking about, that SWAT team, the people who have that profession in common. So you may want to find out if there's an association in your area. And what I do sometimes with my own coaching clients, if we're trying to find one, I'll literally put in, okay, the name of the profession and then the word association in Google, hit enter. Or the name of the profession and the word society and hit enter. Because a lot of associations are called like the American Society of X or the National Association of Y. So the word association, the word society are often interchanged. And you can just see if there's a national association and if there's a local chapter, and it might be right for you. So, and also if you're looking to change careers, right now I'm coaching a woman who we figured out that she has a real interest in process improvement, but she's in the association world and she had nothing to do with it, but she actually has a talent. And I said, oh, there's this organization called ISPE, the International Society for Process Improvement. And she's now looking into them possibly becoming a member for her own professional development. Right. So there's a lot, associations can be a real rich resource, both for networking as well as for professional development.
Yeah, let me jump in because this is specific for Mark. I just remembered. Mark, are you familiar with the Financial Executive Networking Group, FANG? You're on
You're
mute.
mute.
The answer to that is no, so I'm writing it down right now.
Financial Executives Networking Group. They are they have chapters, just as Lisa or Chair was referring to, all over the country. There's a little bit of an exclusivity to it. You might well search for it, see if you can find anybody who's a member of it, and that's probably the best way to get in there. I don't think you can just show up at one of their meetings. And I know there's one in Washington. So, or at
Thank
least
you.
at least there was when I was there.
All right, I will definitely check that
Yeah,
out. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's does anyone else have a quick question? Because otherwise I want to jump into some networking. Okay. So, Bridget, do you have a question? Okay. So what I'd like to do is go around the room and I'm going to give everybody a little formula, what they can use to do this networking. And I call it lane and community. Lane and community. So your lane is your profession. So you're an accountant, you're a project manager, you're a human resources professional, you're in marketing, right? And your community is the industry, mission, or sector that you serve in. You're in higher education, you're in federal government, you're in government contractor, you are in commercial real estate, whatever. Now, most of you have a lane, you have something that you do. Not all of you actually have a dedicated community, which is fine. Some of you are cross-sectoral, that's totally fine. But if you are in a particular community, a particular sector, please mention that. Some of you might be shifting into one or the other, and that's fine too. Just let us know that. But the point of you sharing this is so that we can be thinking, oh, I know somebody who's in that sector. You may want to meet them, that kind of thing. So that, or if there's a specific company that you're trying, or an organization you're trying to get into, let us know that too. Now, as everybody's listening to your colleagues, jot down their name. And you may want to make a connection. You may want to raise your hand, like Jamie. You may want to say, "Hey, Edward, you talked about such and such. Hey, I've got a contact. Let's meet up offline." So what I would recommend is that if you're comfortable, putting in your contact information in the chat so that people can follow up with you. If you're comfortable, that would be great. All right, so I'm going to go around the room here and let you know who's in order. So Edward, and then Jamie. Mark, Roxanne, Pete, I know you're in the role of journalist. I don't think you're in the job seeker mode. So, but you're welcome to share about us yourself more if you like. Vasu, Julie, and Oluwasun. All right, so Edward first.
Good morning. My name is Edward Knapp. I am a pharmacist with a background in scientific research. And for the past decade, I've been serving patients looking for specialty pharmaceuticals. I'm currently expanding my my range to be more general drug information. And so I'm currently looking for opportunities both within the world of specialty pharmacy, but also in a broader sense to serve people who are looking for accurate and actionable information.
Edward, I might have mentioned this last time, but I do have a contact in the pharma world. She actually runs the fellowship program, the pharmacy fellowship program for Rutgers. And I'm going to put her contact information, her LinkedIn profile in the chat. And you actually can just go ahead and reach out to her. I would send her a connection invitation request, just mention my name.
Absolutely.
And just say that you'd like to connect with her. And, she's super well connected in the pharma space. Like she used to work for big pharmaceutical companies in the past. So
thank you, sure. I appreciate that.
put her in the chat here.
And Vern, I also need to follow up with you regarding our previous
Yeah,
conversation.
okay.
I haven't forgotten, but
okay. I was just going to send a message in the chat. So, okay. Yeah, because I'm actually working with a pharma company right now, and one of my people in my network I've known for a long time, and he's pretty senior guy in pharma. So,
and I have your email, and I will be following up with you about that.
All right.
Thank you.
So,
Jamie.
and by the way, that's just an example
Mhm.
of what can happen,
That's
right? Edward joined this call. I know somebody in pharma, and so that's the beauty of this.
That's right. So to go network with your people and be cross-sectoral too, both, because you never know who you're going to meet. All right, Jamie.
Good morning. I'm Jamie Levine. My lane is an HR professional. I was an HR generalist for several years. I drove out of that lane to take a career sabbatical for quite a while, for many reasons, most of which was to just raise my children. So I am actually driving back into the lane as an HR professional again. And so that's kind of where I am right now, is just re-entering that space. And the past, I really don't have an industry per se that I'm looking for. I have done like the hospitality healthcare industry. I was also in the political industry for a while, working for a political organization. So I've enjoyed various areas. I can't really tell you so much for the industry that I'm looking for as much as I enjoy being a generalist. I enjoy speaking, training, benefits, employee engagement, employee wellness, things like that. So that's just kind of my space right now.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay.
And Jamie, I know we talked about different HR networking groups, right? When we talked, and Vern obviously plays in that space too. So Vern, if there's any, I've mentioned HR, the SHRM chapters. I mentioned HR Alliance and the different groups. So Vern, if you have any other.
No, I mean the SHRM chapters would probably be the best place. I know from my personal experience, both in the SHRM chapters and the Association for Talent Development chapters, people tend to be very helpful. I mean, a lot of people in HR, that's why they're in HR. They like to help people. They like to develop people. They like to help people learn. So people in those fields just generally are helpful.
And speaking of, it just occurred to me, there's one more. So they are now a LinkedIn group. And here's what you want to put into LinkedIn in the group section. Or actually, you can just put it in the search bar and then hit groups. HR Leaders in Transition. HR Leaders in Transition. And that's a group in the DC area of HR leaders in transition, but also other people like me and Vern, for example, just people who are allies to this community. It's a very big LinkedIn group, and you can not only join it, you can reach out to anybody there, get networking coffees, because people in that group are there to sort of help HR people in their job search.
And
Either they themselves are in job transition or they want to help.
Yeah, and the HR Leaders in Transition, that group is run by Laura Viemeyer, who I know very well, somebody in my network.
He's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. But she's also recruits in the HR world.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
In other words, she's doing this to help HR people, but she also sometimes benefits because one of them in that group might fit a search that she's working for.
Yes.
So,
go look them up.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Mark, and then Roxanne.
Yes, my name is Mark Pretzat. My lane has been law. I'm an attorney. I've also worked in the regulatory compliance management area. My community has been financial services, that is to say banks, other financial service companies, brokerages, also trade associations for those. And I'm seeking a job somewhere in one of those.
Great, Mark. Thanks, Roxanne.
Good morning. I'm Roxanne Marisalde, and I have been a technical support person, technical trainer, and course development person. And I'm not interested in going into training because of hearing loss, which would make being a trainer a difficult situation. So I'm looking at alternatives to that. And at this point in time, I haven't actually pinned down what I want to do going forward.
Well, Vern and I, we're both career coaches, and we both offer complimentary conversations. So Roxanne, if you wanted to sign up for a quick call with either one of us or both of us, we'd be happy to give you a little bit of advice. I'm going to put I'll put my information in, and Vern.
Mine in as well.
And
Great.
also
Thank you.
for me, I'm also going to put in my Calendly link. So anybody who just wants to, just schedule a 30-minute call, you are certainly welcome to do that. Anybody on this call is welcome. I'm going to put that in. Give me just a minute, and then we will go on to our next person. Okay, so there's my info and then my Calendly link. All right. Vasu.
Hi everyone. I don't know how I missed Sheila for a while, but I'm glad to see her again. So my name is Vasu Sangani, and my lane is business systems analyst, compliance analyst, and learning management systems analyst. My community is banking, biotech, it's pretty wide, fintech. I worked in compliance at biotech firms and banking. And what I'm looking for is either one of them is more industry agnostic, but I'm very detail oriented. So I'm looking for something like that.
Obviously, Mark and Vasu, you have a little bit of a banking thread there, maybe could be woven together. So
Yeah, I just wrote Mark's
one of you,
down.
you may want to connect.
Yeah,
Okay, great, thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Pete, I know we know your role as a journalist. Was there any other role or anything else you wanted to share about yourself?
Yeah, I'm about to turn 70 years old. At the moment, I'm a Medicaid client. So I'm doing my LinkedIn blog and my meetup literary group, both pro bono, because I would be kicked to a different status of health insurance were I to monetize any of my activities. Kind of a bizarre situation to be in, but I'm very well attuned to business intelligence, uh, reflected in my LinkedIn blog and spotting opportunities for meetup entrepreneurs and meetup organizer wannabes in the greater Washington area. So if anybody would like to check out my LinkedIn blog, I'll put the name of it in the chat. And it's been a very interesting hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, Julie, and then Oluwaseun.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having this session. My name is Julie. I'm an attorney, and my industries would be, I was in government. I'm looking for something like in-house counsel. I've done project finance and some litigation, contracts work, and that's kind of what I'm looking for.
So Julie and Mark, you've got the attorney connection there, so you may want to meet up for that.
We already have.
Oh, you already have. Excellent.
Oh.
Very good. Great. That's great. We like to see fruitful connections here. All right. Oluwaseun, how can we help you today with your lane and community? You're back. Okay.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Oluwaseun, and my lane is HR, Learning and Development, LMS Admin, and community would be healthcare, consulting, or tech.
So it sounds like you and Jamie have a bit of a connection there. Oluwaseun, I'm not sure if you were here when Rachel Briggs was on the call. She's in the learning and development space too. I don't know if I have her information. I don't think so.
Yeah, we connected, I think,
Good.
the last session. We're just yet to schedule a time to meet up.
And it sounds like Vasu,
Yeah.
maybe there's a little bit of a connection with you with your LMS work.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll definitely connect with both of you on LinkedIn.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, some of you may have joined the call a little bit late, and I'm going to go ahead and repost in the chat. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be leading a free webinar through Career Confidence. And it's going to be on interviewing. So I wanted
I
to
need that.
repost that for you all so you don't lose the thread. One
Is
more.
it in Higher Moment Mastermind or?
No, so this is going to be with career confidence.
Okay,
And sorry, I'm just
career confidence.
hold on a moment. I am trying to find it.
I have an interview coming up, so I definitely on Monday. So I want to see this.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you know what's interesting? I didn't even realize our Higher Moment Mastermind has been because this is one link, it's been keeping the chat for months and months and months. It's not just today's chat. How about that?
Hmm.
I don't think we can see it, but you can. I can't see.
You can't see the okay, I can
No.
see. All right, well, in any event, here's the link again. So this is tomorrow morning. I'll be leading this meeting starting at 9 a.m. Eastern for Career Confidence. We're calling it Interviewing for Mutual Fit. And it's going to be a real discussion because my perspective, and I'm sure Vern's is the same, is that all of you as job seekers are the other side of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
You might feel when you go into an interview that the employer is up here and you're down here. That is not the case. You're equal, right? They have a business need. You have an ability to fill that need. You are coming at this at the same level. And I really want to encourage you about that and give you tips and techniques to walk a mile in their shoes and how you can help them walk a mile in your shoes, right? And really see each other as business partners to advance a mission, right? That's kind of the goal of all of this. So anyway, you're all welcome to join us for that. Again, it starts at 9 o'clock and I'll be talking a couple different times. They have a little networking thing that they do in the middle and there's different, anyway, but 9 to 12 is sort of the whole event, all right, virtually. All right, so with that, I will go ahead and formally close this part of the call. For any of you who would like to stay on the call, I offer a short prayer call at this time. You're certainly welcome to join me for that, all right? And happy Valentine's Day again. And I look forward to seeing everyone next in 2 weeks. All right. Have a blessed day.